Are you ready to get it going? That's really nice, ladies and gentlemen, but are you ready to get it going? Your first rapper, very funny man. He's done the course a couple of times. He's extremely funny. Put it together for McNally.
I cut my finger, but instead of going to emergency, I went to the comment section in the internet. I did a lot of research on Big Stitch. Also researched how to clean blood off my keyboard. I have to take this off now because of these things. So remember at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was like, how long until we can eat our neighbors? I made it 3 weeks. But now everybody's like, you can't make me wear clothes. And my girlfriend Pam pointed out that I had to go into the office so clothing was no longer optional. And there's a lot of talk about returning to normal. And you know the 6-foot rule, it's 2 meters even though we're metric. I'm wondering how many women want to keep that? Not so. So we're here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and this summer in Ottawa, it was so hot.
How hot was it?
You've done this before. It was so hot that the O-train tracks melted, along with some drivers, and the credibility of Councillor Rick Shirelli. And weed's now legal in Canada, and I got so high. I'm trying to figure out how to word it for you. You're welcome, that's right. I got so high, I missed the first lockdown. And my clothing, which made it awkward when the inspector asked me for my ticket on the O-train. Now that we can gather in groups, I'm really looking forward to getting anal when I'm high on the O-train, without my dog this time. And last one of these, but I got a new job, so I got more money and I can afford more things like more weed and a bucket of lube. And paying off my O-train fines. So with the pandemic, we had a lot of extra time. And I went back to school and I got my master's in bullshit from the University of YouTube. But I also minored in fashion, as you can probably tell. And the thing I discovered that's important about fashion is branding, right? So like a good example is Ben Stiller's character in Zoolander who had blue steel, right? A bad example would be Captain Kirk's line of women's lingerie called Shatner Panties. And sometimes things change. Like German companies from before the war, after the war, they had to like rearrange the branding and stuff like that. So you know Hugo Boss, they make clothes. They had to get rid of the little, makers of fine uniforms for Nazis. Same with Volkswagen. Like it really takes the hippie vibe off a 420 road trip if you're going in a Nazi wagon. But, wow. Now I know some people might not know who the Nazis are, because after the war the Allies blew up all their statues, thereby erasing history and canceling culture. So the line I'm launching today, it's retro Canadiana, and I'm calling it Toppled Statue. Now I find it weird, or kind of funny in the ironic sense, that all of the cancel culture warriors were like, you can't move a statue or erase history and blah, blah, blah. When it comes to the Johnny McDonald statues, because that guy literally tried to cancel cultures and erase history, so his statues are literally monuments to cancel culture. And I also read in my researches, it's only cancel culture if it comes from the Cancel region of France. Otherwise, it's sparkling accountability. So after the last lockdown ended, I was out and about and I bumped into somebody and they were like, I said, how's your lockdown? And they're like, I'm anti-lockdown. I'm like, in my head I'm thinking, like everybody? Let me take a guess. You're probably also anti-shitting your pants. So they said, yeah, I'm so anti-lockdown. I started a group called Anti-Lockdown Pro-Freedom. And I'm like, that's weird, because so did I. What does your group do to stop lockdown? They said, well, we don't wear masks, we don't get vaccinated, and we shut down essential services by protesting hospitals and schools. And I was like, oh. And they were like, what does your anti-lockdown group do? And I was like, we wear masks, we get vaccinated, and we support vaccine passports so that everybody can have access to essential services. Asshole. And then somebody else was like, yeah, I'm so anti-lockdown, I started a group called Do Your Own Research. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, did you actually take your own advice and do your own research by researching the word research? It's like, if you're going on holiday, are you going to research making a plane first? And then research how to be a pilot? And then it dawned on me that George Carlin got it wrong. He said that the government was trying to fuck you. It's actually your neighbors. In the moral sense, not in the possessive individualist sense. So yeah, so here in Ottawa, happy belated Thanksgiving, here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And if you don't know the origins of those three words, that's all you really need to know about cancel culture. So a couple Thanksgivings back, I was going over to dinner at my parents' place with my girlfriend Pam, and we were driving over, and she was excited because she was going to get to meet my grandparents for the first time. And we were discussing linguistics, kind of like how words change over the years, just like Nazi uniform makers. And it's like, you know, now it's sex worker, before it was sex trade worker, it used to be hooker or prostitute. In the Bible, they had whores, like the whore of Babylon, for one. And if you went to Catholic school and got your sex education there, then the most important thing you're going to need to know is you're going to need a whore to teach you the stuff you didn't think you needed to know. Like what to do with your thumb. So we get to my parents' place, and they're in the kitchen getting the food ready, and I'm sat here, and Pam sat there, and Grandma Grace is there, and Gramps is there, and they usually sit together because he's got some hearing aid problem. So Grandma Grace says to Pam, she asks her, what do you do for a living? And Pam cuts straight to the chase and says she sucks cock for a living. And Grandma Grace is like, well, isn't that sweet? I don't want to sound condescending, but everybody sucks cock for a living. Grandpa here sucked that insurance company's cock for 42 years before he retired. And Pam's like, oh, I don't mean the proverbial cock, I mean the actual cock. And she's like, oh, isn't that nice? And then Gramps chimes in with, what'd she do for a living? Fixes clocks? No, dear, she sucks cock for a living. Well, everybody sucks cock for a living. I sucked that insurance company's cock for 42 years before I retired. No, dear, not a proverbial cock, she sucks actual cock. Well, isn't that nice? Just like you during the war at the government-sponsored glory holes. And then Grandma says to Pam, oh, the glory hole, that's where I met Grandpa. I don't know. I don't know what the glory holes are like today, but back then, because there was a war on it, we had efficiencies, we would just cut a hole in the stalls in the men's room, so I could see everybody's feet. And most people had combat boots, but this one fella had the nicest shoes. Two-tone brogue they were. He also had the nicest cock. And back then, I don't know what it's like today, but back then we got a nickel a cock. And I was at the Green Grocers in the checkout line, and I dropped one of my nickels. And when I bent down and picked it up, I noticed that the gentleman in front of me had the nicest shoes. Two-tone brogues they were. So I got my lipstick out in case he recognized me from work. I was going to tap on his shoulder and ask him for a date. Now, today, that might not seem out of order, but back then, a lady didn't just ask a strange gentleman out on a date. But there was a war on, and I'd already sucked his cock. So Gramps says to me, "Oh, you're in for a treat when Pam gets dentures and can take them out." And Grandma Grace says to Pam, like, "We called his father Pee-wee because I heard it skipped a generation, but is that true?" Pam gives her a thumbs up. Now my parents come in with the food, and my mom's like, "Well, since introductions have already been made, who'd like to say grace?" And Gramps is like, "Grace, Grace, sit on my face." And Grandma Grace is like, "Wait till we get back to the home, dear." And then we ate. Because that, my friends, is how to tell a dick joke. Happy Thanksgiving, gobble, gobble, gobble.
That was McNally, ladies and gentlemen! Oh boy, I forgot to mention, we're uncensored.